There
Good
we
morning.
go.
How are you, Gerald?
Very good. How's everyone doing?
Good.
There.
First rate, thanks.
Pretty good so far.
We will
There
be
we
going
go.
live momentarily.
Ready? We're 1 minute away from being live.
There
We
we
are
go.
live now. Don, we are live now.
We're live. Good morning and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment meeting for October 13, 2021. My name is Don Popple and I'm your chairman today. And our committee today consists of Mr. David Bishop, Mr. John Smith, who is Councillor for Ward 4, and Mr. Gerald Walker. And a notice to all those in attendance at this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube and recorded. Please note the recording will be linked to the municipal website following the meeting. This is a public hearing to consider 3 applications for minor variance to the municipality zoning bylaw. It is the committee's responsibility to consider all information received to date regarding the requested variances and to hear and consider any comments or questions provided by these applications. Any variances granted by the committee must meet 4 tests, which are very clearly defined in the Planning Act. It must be minor in nature, must be desirable for the property development of the land, comply with the general intent of the official plan, and comply with the general intent of the zoning bylaw. Please note if anyone wishes to be notified of the decision, please make a request in writing to the municipality. Does any committee member wish to declare a conflict of interest on any of these cases that are being presented? If so, please raise your hand. No hands being raised, we'll assume no one has a conflict of interest. Fair enough. Any oral or written submissions were received in advance of the meeting will be verbally read aloud at the time of the application is being considered. Information regarding live streaming of the meeting is available on the Municipality of Dysart et al. Website. All persons who have pre-registered will have an opportunity to present or ask questions about the proposals. And please direct all your questions and comments to the chair. There is a maximum of 5 minutes to provide your input to the meeting. And we have had some experiences where we've had to make that very clear. And if you get close to the 5 minutes, Danielle will give you a 1 minute notice. And if you continue beyond the 1 minute, she has the right to press the button and that'll be the end of your conversation. So please state your name in relation to the application prior to speaking. The first application on the agenda is D13 MV 2021-024 Cowan and McKinley, and Jeremy Cowan will be attending. Is Jeremy alive here?
I'm just bringing him on.
Okay. Well, before we get to that, let's clean up the minutes of the September 8th meeting. I need a mover and a secondary. Everyone's been presented with the minutes that resolve the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting for September 8th, 2021 be adopted. Need a mover and a seconder. Jerry Walker, John Smith. All in favor, please indicate by holding your hand. Carried. Thank you very much. So Mr.
Callan?
What is his name?
Callan.
Hello,
Mr. Cowan, are you live?
He is.
I am here. How are you?
I'm very well. Perhaps we could just start off, if you could just give us a quick synopsis of what it is that you're looking for with the variances that are requested.
Yeah, so I think there was a couple little things, but the main one is I wanted to build a garage with a second story for living space on top. But we didn't want to do the 15-foot setback from the property line to our neighbors because the property is very small, and what it would do, it would force the garage to be kind of in the middle of our driveway. So we were looking to do a smaller setback. We were hoping to maybe get 6 feet so that the garage we wanted to build would be flush with the front of our driveway. And our neighbor had 0 issues with it. He supported it, and we're not near any kind of structures or anything he has at all. But it would just doing the 15-foot setback would be really difficult where we were. And then I think we had to do a small minor variance for something that was an existing shed that Marie Feeney had built. And we just purchased this place recently. But one of the sheds has a portion, it's not even to the property line, but one of them is up to 3 feet, I think it was, from the property line. So I think we had to do a variance on that as well.
Okay,
I think
are you not looking for some increase in your allowed building area?
Yeah,
Wow.
I guess that's true too. They did a full tally, and I think based on the lot size, there was a slight increase in the living space. I think there was something like that.
Is this related to,
I'm-
is that somewhat related to the variance for the garage?
Well, the garage is the right size. We're under the right size space. The only variance, as far as I can understand, for the garage is that we just want to do a closer setback to our property line. But adding the garage living space, I think, made it so that our total living square footage is slightly above the percentage that it's supposed to be on the lot size. That's what I understood from Danielle, I believe.
Danielle has a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna put input into that.
Right.
So it's the total ground floor area of all buildings on the lot. Not
Yeah.
living space, but yeah, all ground floor area.
Right.
Okay.
Do we have
Yeah.
some questions for this gentleman, Mr. Bishop?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask that Mr. Cowan, is there a physical impediment in the lot that would prevent you from meeting the sideline setback on this proposed two-story building? And is it necessary for you to create it in the size that you've done so that if it was a lesser size, you wouldn't have such a larger amount of lot coverage and ground floor area? Is there a physical impediment?
Yeah, so I mean, if we did the setback, basically the garage would be kind of almost in the middle of the property. Like it would be, if you could see the lot, we'd be 9 feet into our driveway. So it would literally just be overlap. It would be in the middle of the lot, basically. The lot is not very large. Whether we could do a smaller garage, this was a prefab setup. We didn't actually design the garage from scratch. It was a setup. But we were just trying to get available to have a bathroom and a bedroom up above it for living space for my mother when she visits, because we don't have a guest quarters at all in the house. It's a sizable house, but it doesn't have any real guest quarters at all. So it's, yes.
But I see on your, we'll have to take your measurements, I guess, as being accurate on this sketch that's attached here. But you actually have 30 feet of apron in the driveway there. Is that not fair?
Yes, but we would have to keep it that footprint, we would have to build a 15-foot wide garage.
Yeah, well, if that was drawn on the basis of you applying for a 6-foot setback from the sideline, if you met the 15 feet, we'd be cutting that down to 21 feet. Is that correct? Instead of 30?
Well, if we were taking away 15 feet from the 30, we would be left with 30 feet. Or with 15
No,
feet,
we're not
correct?
taking 15 from the 30. We're taking 9 from where we're taking, you've got it set up here on your sketch as being a 6-foot setback that you're asking for.
Yeah,
And if that became 15, then that would become a total of 9 additional feet. Then that
Yeah.
9 additional feet would come off of your 30 feet on that apron of your driveway. And so that your driveway apron would then be 21 feet. You find that being
Yeah.
too small?
well, I do, and it's not even that it would be too small, it just would ruin the entire lot. I mean, all of a sudden, it's a very wide driveway there, but it would impede 9 feet into the driveway. And then even afterwards, we'd have to cut the rest of the drive. Like, it's an existing driveway, so we'd have to shorten right now the driveway goes right to the edge of the house. So it would be very weird to come in 9 feet there. I mean, it just visually, I mean, you'd be into the house. Like it just would be into the house. I mean, it's overlapping 9 feet onto the driveway.
But factually, there's no physical impediment on the lot that would prevent you from meeting the sideline setback. Is that fair?
No, I know there's no physical impediment. I mean, we could put it in the middle of the property, but it would just be an island, right? It starts really being cumbersome in the space. That's all. And we don't want to really ruin the existing driveway we have. We purchased it based on having a nice big driveway, and, to cut out 10 by 24 of that, 9 by 24 is substantial. And I just feel it would be very awkward. It seems like it would be very awkward to me to place it into the driveway.
We have a question.
Now, in
from Mr.
regard to
Smith.
your lot coverage, then you said that you're stuck with this particular size of a building because you chose that as a prefab building and that's what you need?
Well, no, we want that amount of space. We do. But no, it was a prefab building. It's not something I designed from scratch or anything. It was a prefab setup from Halliburton Lumber. But I do have substantial toys. I have two snowmobiles and a Wolverine that would be nice to be able to store down below. The idea would be, we have two existing structures that were built long time ago on the lot line. So there's two structures, one for a wood shed and another's for another garage shed full of stuff. We want to consolidate those. So those together right now are 10 by almost 10. There's two of them together. They're about 10 by 24 wide. So what I want to do is get rid of those and consolidate it into one pretty compact setup. So you're not having these structures everywhere.
Going back to your sketch, Mr. Cowan, there's a dotted line going down through this proposed two-story building. What's that? And it's that 10-foot measurement. What's that dotted line?
That's the existing sheds that are there. So that's what I propose to take down if we can build a garage. Because I don't want to leave those there. And they're right on the lot line right now. They're existing and they've been there the whole time. So they're
So you're
literally
telling-
right.
So that existing shed is from the lot line to its front face is 10 feet? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. And that's we purchased the place with this. I mean, we purchased 2 months ago, and that's been there the whole time. So we have the existing structures there. I know we want to make another story, but to give a 15-foot lot line, it breaks up the property so immensely. So what I want to do is just clean it up, get rid of those two structures and put one garage that would serve us for a garage and having their living space above, which is not a huge, I mean, it's 480 square feet, I believe, above, and not all of it has living, is full height. So, I mean, it's enough room just for a bedroom and a bathroom, really. It's not going to be a huge space for living quarters.
So you're indicating that you want to take down two structures? Is that what you're saying? The
Yes.
shed?
Yeah.
And which other one? Both sheds?
Yeah, well, there's two sheds in that footprint where the dotted lines are. There's two separate sheds back to back.
Oh, okay.
That's not one shed. There's two separate sheds. So one's a bit of an open wood shed that's about 10 feet by 10 feet, and then the other one's about 14 by 10 feet. That is actually enclosed, but it has holes in the side. It's a rundown structure. It's not really there's no real flooring to it. There's been animals breaching in. I mean, it's not the nicest structure I've ever seen.
Okay,
So
we're gonna
to
move
me,
on
I'm
here.
just thinking of
We have-
building
We have a
something.
couple of
nice.
other people who have questions. So Mr. Smith
Yep.
first and then Mr. Walker. John?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So Jeremy, I actually went around and had a look at your property.
Yep.
Because I was curious, as you may know, or maybe you don't know, as a relatively new owner on the lake, Cache is a lake that is overloaded, if you like, now from a development perspective.
Yep.
And that impacts the water quality of everybody that's on the lake. I was surprised from the diagram to, it portrayed a lot of asphalt in terms of your existing driveway.
Yeah.
As you note in the one measurement there, it is 30 feet wide. I paced it off, and it's 30, maybe 32 feet
Yeah.
wide. And then you've got the whole entrance area, in terms of existing drive. So there's a lot of asphalt on this driveway,
Yeah.
and property. The lot coverage of 15%. There's a variety of reasons for that. One of them is for environmental health. It leaves ground available to absorb precipitation, melting snow, and so forth. And with all of the asphalt that you've got on this property, plus the amount of buildings, it's not a great environmental setup. And to the questions from David Bishop, wondering, I understand there's some asphalt there, but it's not like it's leading to a driveway or anything. Vehicles are going to be going. It's leading to a door on the end veranda there. And so, why that building couldn't be a little closer towards the septic. In other words, to cut into some of that highway. Yeah, you understand it's a small lot, and you'd like it to be right on the property line or near the property line because it gives you more space. But
I
you
just
got a
didn't want
small
to cut the shape. Yeah, I just didn't want to be cutting into an existing driveway.
Yeah, I understand.
we already
But you're
have-
going to damage that drive with all the construction equipment coming in anyway.
Oh yeah, we're gonna cut into it. I just didn't want to have to. It's just visually we have a line here in an existing driveway which we purchased having all the space, but we just didn't. Yeah, it's just totally staggered to the 15 feet behind you, and then have a structure that's going to be smack dab in the middle of an existing driveway. It doesn't make sense to me. And
Yeah.
in terms of the environmental impact, well, where we're putting it doesn't affect that argument, right? That I understand. There's a lot of asphalt for sure.
Yeah.
We're not looking to overload this. I'm not a guy who's coming in here to do Airbnb or develop anything. I've had a cottage on Chandos Lake for 15 years. Since I was 26 years old, I purchased it. I sold it. It was much bigger. And so this was a huge downsize for me. My mother sold her place in Apsley at the exact same time. We both kind of figured she's getting much older. So she used to have a cottage in Apsley, right on the McFadden. Now she's very disabled. She's had MS since she was in her 20s. So right now she's trying to, I like to be as inclusive and trying to have her up. I do not want to build this thing. I want to be welcoming to her. So my problem is I can't have my mother stay over right now. If she sleeps on the couch, there's a bathroom nearby. Our cottage is very large, it looks like from the outside. Interior is ridiculous how it's set up for one family. Murray and Donna are phenomenal people, but there's no bathroom in the basement. There's one bathtub in the main floor, and there's one tiny shower on the master. So literally, if my employee's up on the week, there's nowhere for him to shower except for her master bed. Like, there's no accommodations whatsoever. So I'm not talking about opening a hotel here. I'm talking about having a disabled person be able to stay there properly. And literally all I need is a bathroom on the same floor as some bedroom. That's all I'm looking for. And so I'm doing this for my mother so that she has a place to stay. I'm not talking, she's going to not be there. We're not having parties. I'm not concerned at all about our environment. I personally, I want to do solar on the roof. We're trying to keep the house completely off grid at a certain point. And I would say, if you said I'm concerned about the asphalt, I'll take that into consideration. I'm happy to tear up certain parts of the asphalt, although it's very nicely done. I mean, it's spaced. Just to me, it's visual. It's not even just a desire. It ruins the entire flow to bring it into the driveway. It really does. I wouldn't build it at that point because that doesn't make any sense. It does. We can't have it there and then walking around it to get to somewhere. We'd have to redesign the entire asphalt to do that. I would say you'd have to redesign it so you have one lane of cars, whereas right now you have 3 that can park there.
Yep.
It's not a busy place. Nobody's using this place. You'll never see 2 cars there, and I guarantee you.
Well, that's it.
I'm a client.
Three lanes of cars.
I know,
And a 30-foot
I know.
wide driveway is way beyond what most people would consider appropriate. And and so my concerns remain in place, if you like, in terms of what you're proposing here. I think, and especially given that this lake is already overdeveloped, proving something like this just sets us back further in that regard. And also is a precedent then that the next person that wants to do something is always going to say, well, you approved that. And, where does it ever end?
But your concern is how close I am to the lot line, or your concern is the living space? Because my neighbor has zero issue whatsoever. He's a lawyer. He said you have precedence because you have 2 structures there, but B, he's written a letter saying he has zero obstructions to it whatsoever. Like he doesn't have any issue with it whatsoever. Now we're not trying to.
I saw his letter, and that's great. But
3 acre lot, I would say that's great to set it back, but the lot is smaller than a city lot. I mean, I live in Toronto. It's a tiny lot. It's tiny. We're 120 feet across. Like, to put a 24-foot garage with 15-foot setback, it's in the middle of the property. That's my concern. And I was saying I could give you space. Like, all I want to do is just make it so we're not destroying our existing driveway to do the build. So I want to leave the existing as is, and that's why I'll give as much setback as possible. And I was saying we'll have about 6 feet at that point. We wouldn't be damaging the trees whatsoever because we're giving a 6-foot setback. So we'd be the tree line is very good privacy between the neighbors. And it's just working with a much smaller lot, and it really is. It's not a big lot. If I had 3R, I would. There's no question. I'm happy to get back.
Mm.
This is a suburban lot, and I agree with you. It's very small. The place I had before was 3 acres.
Yeah.
So this is a tiny lot to me. So every inch does matter. So to be bringing it into an existing driveway, cutting into it, because we have a lot of asphalt. Well, yeah, we had a lot of asphalt. That's why I purchased the place. It had space, but to cut into it 9 by 24, it's going to be a very awkward layout.
So you,
Feng Shui, all these things.
Oh, I
Feng Shui does-
understand. I understand your
Yeah.
point, but as I said, I've got a problem with that smaller setback. Going from nearly 15 feet to 6 feet is not a minor accommodation, in my opinion. And compounding that with the 15 to 17.5% lot coverage, combined with you want to protect all the asphalt. To my mind, that's not an asset that we need to protect.
Jerry Walker, question?
Mute button here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, Mr. Cohen, I just have a question. Excuse me. It looks like you have an existing shed at the back in the corner. Looks to be
Yep.
15 by 12. Was there any,
Yep.
and that is proposed to stay, is that correct?
I would prefer keep it, but if that was a condition
Okay.
of being able to do what I want, I would understand that. But I mean, these are all
Right.
existing things.
So,
He's got a riding mower in there, but I'm happy to consolidate.
so my point is, I guess, was there any consideration to remove that shed and move your garage to that back corner? Which would make it a little more desirable on those setbacks. It wouldn't jut out
Still-
into your lot, and you might be able to address some of the asphalt concerns by Mr. Smith. That might be just another thought on this whole proposal.
Yeah, but then we'd be 15 feet from each corner, right? So right now, from that corner, you'd be 15 foot in and 15 foot in. It would put the garage. I don't even know if you'd have an entranceway to the property at that point.
Right, no, I'm suggesting that maybe you still look at a reduced setback.
Oh,
But you-
I'd be happy. 100%.
But move,
I'm
but
very
move
happy
the
with it.
move the building, the proposed two-story garage, and remove the existing shed, which should reduce your lot coverage. And then you could also shape the asphalt to address the concerns of the lot coverage of the asphalt as well.
I'd
that
be
this
totally
may
happy to
be
do
a-
that. Yeah, I'd
may
be
be a
totally happy to do it.
solution.
The only issue would be then I just thought it would make more sense because we're demoing all the other stuff that's there. The other basic reason I thought the other location would make sense was because we're basically removing all those structures that are right there, and it's the same footprint. And there's a weird
Right.
garden there that I just thought that looks like
Sure.
a spot, the natural spot to me. But if you guys are happy with the other corner, I'm flexible. I'm really not being particular. I wanted to find a place to put this structure on the lot somewhere. We're very limited as far as I can tell where it could go.
We have a question from Danielle.
I just have a comment there. So if you were to move the existing garage, the lot coverage and shoreline lot coverage would be 15.9%.
If he was to remove the,
The garage in the corner,
yeah,
as well as remove the other two garages that he proposes, his lot coverage
Yep.
would be 15.9% instead of the ask of 17.5.
yeah, okay.
And would it be allowed? 15?
15.
Okay, so that's much closer. So that might be somewhat more appealing to people.
Jeff Isles has a comment.
Thank you, Chair. And one more thing to consider. So if the committee's considering that location, the rear lot line setback for a two-story garage is 7.5 meters, 25 feet, as opposed to where it's only 1 meter for a small one-story accessory building.
Any further questions?
So
Mr. Bishop?
if I was, oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
I
Well,
was just going to say, so it sounds, oh, go ahead.
no, I appreciate, Mr. Cowan, that you thought, and then Jerry's come up with a very good suggestion, in my opinion. But the situation is where, if you did tear down both places, what kind of variance would you think you needed to have in order to accommodate what you want? you would more than likely have to have both sideline and rear line setbacks. Is that fair, Jeff?
Well, I suppose that's up to the applicant to submit a plan that shows his design. Is it possible to meet the 25 feet from the rear and 15 feet from the side? I don't know. I haven't been on site.
We'd be pretty much closer to where I was originally specing the garage. I think it's 25 feet. So I don't know if that really gets us anywhere other than saying I'm happy if it, you know, if I don't have, if I have to tear down the other garage to consolidate and get what I'm looking for the main garage, then I have no problem with that. I'd prefer not, because the existing structure is great, but no problem. I can put the riding mower into the other garage. You know, that works fine for me. If that makes the proposal more appealing to the committee, that's great. I have no problem with that. The setback, putting it in, you know, having 15-foot setback, I just feel like is a deal breaker for that location. I don't see where it could go. And I know people are saying you have a lot of asphalt. Yeah, it's not only that it changes the entire existing layout of the property. So it would mean that it would just cut in. It's just the use of space is just crazy. Then we're going to have a little 15 feet behind the lot, right? To me, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, we have a question from Mr. Smith.
Jeremy, how would you feel about going away and developing a new plan here? You've heard some concerns from at least some of the committee members. And so, you know, we could vote today and reject your request. Or maybe you could come up with a better plan, given that you've heard some of our concerns, and bring that back to a future committee meeting. Would that be something that would make sense to you?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I really don't like paperwork and red tape. You know, I this is enough for me already. I mean, I'm ready to cancel it. I don't understand. I can't build it in the middle of the room. So either I get you know, it's either going to work or it's not. I can't build a 15-foot wide garage, and I can't build it in the middle of our driveway. It doesn't make sense. So if I'm not going to get the variance, I probably wouldn't build it. And that's, I don't know what to resubmit. A 15-foot garage? I mean, then I don't need a variance. All I'm asking for is to build it closer to the building. So in terms of the square footage area, we're down to 0.9% difference, right? If I took down the other garage. So I think that's getting to be a mute issue. The real issue is our setback from the existing. What I'm looking for is to reduce the setback from the property line. I don't feel like that's setting a bad precedent to anything. I have seen no reason why that's not available, and I don't see why somebody would want to force me to put it 16 feet off when it's tiny lot and it's going to go in the middle of our driveway. But if that's the way you guys feel, we're probably just going to lose business that's going to be going into the community. And we're not going to be hurting the footprint of anything. There's going to be the same amount of people in our place. They're just going to be, my mother's, you're going to have a 70-year-old disabled lady sleeping on a couch or having to kick my kids out of their room. That's all it's going to happen.
Okay.
I don't see what the answer is. I mean, all I'm asking for is to reduce the setback and I'm not trying to set a new precedent here. It's just a question of I just see zero reason why it wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Any
I don't
further
see anyone
comments?
Dave has a question.
Dave,
Mr.
Mr. Bishop?
Mr. Chair, too, you know, I sense some frustration with Mr. Cowan, but you know, you keep referring to this as a small lot, but sir, that's the one you bought. It hasn't changed configuration from the time that you bought it.
I love the lot.
And so what we're trying to see here is there a physical impediment on that lot that would prevent you from meeting the bylaw, both as to area coverage and as to setbacks? And technically there is not a physical impediment. I think that the committee wishes to try and accommodate you to some extent. I know that your neighbor has given a consent, but that's not a planning issue as far as that's concerned, okay? Because that neighbor might not be there tomorrow, and you might not be there tomorrow. So we're trying to meet what the OP is, or the official plan. We're trying to meet the zoning bylaw, in a manner that would be consistent with good development. So no
Yeah.
one's trying to throw rocks in your face, okay?
Oh, no, no,
but-
I fully get that. I just, that's 15 feet. I understand the reason to have setbacks. I fully understand that. You don't want to encroach your neighbors. You don't want to be bothering people. I mean, it fully makes sense. But is there an impediment to put it in the middle of the, like, I could put it in the middle of the driveway, but I can't. Like, it's just, the 9 feet is difficult for me. If it was 3 feet, 100%, I'd say that's great. But 9 foot encroachment onto an existing driveway, I feel is very difficult. It breaks up the lot immensely. And I think if it was your lot, you would look at that and you would not want to do the same thing. I believe that. I don't think visually it's not a physical impediment. It's that the 15 feet in this case is very difficult. And on the lot, I'm not saying it's a tiny lot. I'm saying to give 15 feet when you have 120 foot, it's very difficult. And I don't see how it would fit there. I don't see 9 foot into the driveway. I'm looking at it going, you have to be walking around this, like it's an eyesore.
We have a question from Mr. Isles.
I actually it was more of a comment, and it's from a procedural standpoint for the meeting. I just want to remind Mr. Cowan that if he wishes to speak, please raise your hand and address your comments through the chair. If you wish to speak, raise your hand and he will let you know when it's your turn. Thank you.
Mr. Walker?
I'm just going to go back to my original kind of a suggestion there. If you were to move that building into the corner and the committee was to look at reduced setbacks, and I'm going to suggest about 10 feet from each line being the rear and the side, and you remove the existing shed, would that be something that might be desirable for all of us involved here?
I would be very happy with that. I just don't. Personally, I wish I could hire a draftsman to do all these drawings. I'm very not good at.
You got cut off.
Hold on, I'm trying to. Hello. Yeah.
You're on.
Okay. Sorry. I'd be very happy with that. I just feel like I need to hire a draftsman or something. Because my drawings are just not doing very well, and it's very confusing when I don't know exactly everything you're looking for. I just feel like it should be a professional draftsman or something, because I just don't want to be caught up just keep doing drawings that don't make any sense to anybody else. It's a hard process for me to do when I'm not a designer.
Okay, we have a question.
I know what I want to do.
Go ahead, Mr. Isles.
Thank you. I just want to advise the committee, if the committee wants to consider a rear lot line setback for the 2-story garage, it will have to go back out for the proper notification process through the Planning Act, because it was not put in the paper today. So if that's something that needs to be considered, we'll have to defer the application and recirculate.
Okay, where would you like to go with this, Mr. Smith?
Well, I had suggested that we defer this and let the applicant bring back a new proposal based on what he's heard this morning. And if he wants to do that, I'm happy to have us go in that direction. But if not, I suggest that we've spent 35 minutes on this. It's time to move on. Our position is clear, and therefore it's up to the applicant. We can either reject this, or you can have it deferred and bring back a proposal that you think makes more sense given what you've heard this morning.
Would someone care to make a motion to that effect?
I'm happy to put forward that motion.
So there's a motion for deferral, which is there a seconder for the motion? Mr. Walker seconded. And in fairness to Mr. Cowan, that does give, I know you're somewhat frustrated, but we are too. So hopefully we can work this thing out. It's acceptable to you and acceptable to us. That's what the whole exercise is all about. And
for sure. So if I I'm still asking for variances. If I readmit this whole thing, you guys think that corner is more desirable to the committee?
Yes.
With those kind of setbacks.
yes, and you don't have to pay again. It'll just be deferred till the next meeting. Subsequently give you a little bit as Mr. Smith suggests. there are some concerns. It's not one person on the committee that's concerned, there's two or three. So if we can work it out for you, we'll be happy to do that. And Daniel?
Okay, so I should
Fair
figure
enough.
out how to read.
If the applicant does decide that he needs to be closer than the 25 feet to the rear lot line, there may be a fee to recirculate the application.
Well, that's what we have to do, but. Okay, so let's have a vote on the motion, which is a deferral of the application to the next meeting pending additional information. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. It's carried. So the decision will be deferred for 30 days till the next meeting, and hopefully we can get more information from you that will make us satisfied, and we'll move on from there. And thank you very much for your attendance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are we connected with, let's get rid of this first, all deferred. So for the minutes, the 1, 2, 3, 4 considerations for an amendment to the bylaws will be deferred to the meeting of the next meeting. It will be in
It's November. The next meeting is November 10th.
November 10th. Okay, carry on. Okay. Okay, just a second here. So the next person we're dealing with is Mr. Cowan.
Connolly.
Morning, Mr. Cowan. Would you?
Connolly, sir.
Well, there's two Cowans. We just had it, Mr. Cowan. Was he an EN or this guy's an AN?
No, this one's Mr. Connolly.
This is
Mr.
this is Connolly. You probably knew my father, Giles Connolly. He was your SO sales agent back in the day.
I knew him very well. Very well. Anyway, if you would like to give us a quick synopsis on your proposal, we'll be happy to hear from you.
Sure. I don't know if my wife, if she can hear, I don't see her face there. Is
She advised me that she will be late to the meeting. She's on a call.
She turned it over to you.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So basically, we're asking for variance for our garage. We built a home on the property in 2019, and it was based on, I guess, a 15-foot setback, which is the traditional setback next to a neighbor. I guess at the time, whatever mistake was made, or just didn't think, well, it's next to an unassumed road allowance, and the setback is further off of a road allowance. So we had planned for a future garage at the time. When we put our new septic system in, TMS Services, Mitch Stevens put that in. I sort of based everything off of the 15-foot setbacks. So the location of the septic field on the top kind of boxes us into the one location on the property. So we do want to move the garage, or have the garage as far back from the lake, or as far back in the property as we could. So we drew it there with 16-foot setback versus 15, just to make sure we were safe. If we moved the garage further to the north, the one door, you'd have to drive across the septic field to get into it. So, and then east and west, you can't move the building any further east because it'll impede even the 15 feet. And if you move it to the west, it impedes with the 15-foot setback to the septic field. So basically that's, we're kind of penned in on the location of the garage. So that's our desire to put it there. The size of it, along with another shed in the building, puts us up to 17% on the lot. although the lot is quite treed, I'm a bit of a tree hugger, especially if they're pines and oaks. So, you know, future development would not include any type of pavement or any unnatural or even grass. I'm not a big fan of that either. So the lot will remain quite natural. And so that's really our variance requests. And I guess there was a few conditions in there too regarding removing a shipping container that we put there for storage while we were building the garage. So, you know, we don't like the shipping container either. I know you guys don't like them. I don't like them. It's red and ugly and it cost me $300 a month. We would like to keep it there until we built the garage though. And don't tell the Sunbelt guys. Oh, my wife wants to speak.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mrs. Conley, go ahead and speak.
In all fairness, we wouldn't have had a shipping container there. We moved up here permanently from Barrie 2 months ago, and we put our permit in for the garage. We would have had the garage done by now, but this variance came up because of the home, which we had already had total occupancy on, and the variance for the garage. So we have nowhere to put our stuff right now. We would have had somewhere.
I can appreciate that. I go into my garage all the time.
And honestly, we purged a lot of stuff. So we really tried to downsize quite a bit.
Do we have some questions for these applicants? Mr. Bishop?
Yes, I hope, Mr. and Mrs. Connolly, that I can do this in a fashion that we can all speak about the same things. You've given us, I presume that this sketch that is showing the location of your existing house or cottage was something that was prepared by yourselves. Is that correct? So on this sketch, you've got at each corner, you've got a statement that says monument in place. Is that a survey stake that's in place?
Yes, that's the square iron bar.
Okay. Do you know when they were put in there, sir, by chance?
I think the survey, Curry Bishop did it in the early 60s, I think, like 61-ish.
Fair, okay. But you've been
Yeah.
able to find all those stakes.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. Normally you can't, but I had Mitch Stevens, he had one of those bar locator devices there, so we were able to run around and find them all.
So I have another part of what the application, and I don't know how well this shows up for you, but this is an overfly and it's got a red line drawing on it that is indicating the perimeter of your property. Have you got a copy of that by chance?
No. When was that from?
Go ahead, Nicole or Danielle.
The imagery is from 2018. It was included in the agenda package.
Oh, okay.
Do Mr. and Mrs. Connolly have a copy of this by chance, Danielle?
Only if they looked at the agenda.
Oh, okay. It was like an attachment or something?
So the next thing, I have to try and relate these things to the material that we've been circulated. There is another photograph here that I'll do it this way, which is indicating, I think, your front area looking out to the lake. Have you seen that by chance?
I haven't seen the photograph, but that is, yep.
Is there a way that you could tell me on that photograph where this pin and monument is located on your property?
Well, so you'll see those, you'll see the two birch trees there.
Yes.
And then you'll see that red pine at the very far left there.
Yes.
So if you go up into the bush there about, another 20 feet, there's a very big white pine tree that you can't see in the picture. And the iron bar is, yeah, you can't see the tree because it's off into the bush a fair ways. There's an iron bar by a large white pine. It's maybe, I don't know, 20 feet behind
Well, I
those.
guess I don't think that's gonna help us too much, and I'm got a little bit confused. I'm gonna bring up another photograph here. If I can find it all.
Mhm.
I'm just a little confused as to the orientation of your cottage on the lot. And are you by chance using any portion of the 66-foot open concession line that is in adjacent to your ownership?
So the road allowance?
Yes, the road allowance. Is your dock in front of your ownership or is it in front of the road allowance?
Our ownership.
You're quite sure of that?
Yeah, in that case, the road allowance is very obvious where it is from the lake, because the previous owners on both sides of the road allowance had done rocks along the shore. So but of course the road allowance, there was no work done on the shore, so it's.
So the only concern that I have is I'm going back to this overfly photograph. And over here is what I would consider is the location of your dock and boat facility. And that would be onto a portion of the unopened shore road allowance. But if this isn't accurate, then I could be wrong. But it's a problem that I have in terms of interpreting
Oh,
everything that's located there, because going back
Yeah.
to your other parcel,
Mhm.
it looks like a fair amount of tree cover has been removed. But anyway, I just want to make sure that we're dealing with the right lot lines, okay?
right. I think if you can just show us that again, I think what you'll find is the whole.
I think your
Yeah,
wife
it's-
wishes to speak to this too.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Gail.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Bishop, I think what you're talking about is the road allowance that goes out towards the lake, and it's like a sheer cliff. Now, we sent pictures to Jeff Isles, I believe, and Danielle. I think Walt McKechnie brought them in, showing where everything is. Do you have those pictures?
Thank you. I do not have copies of those. You're right. Councillor McKechnie did stop by the office and he did show me some pictures with regards to I believe there was some erosion at the shoreline, that there was some concerns about that, but he did not leave them with me and they were not included for the agenda package today.
Okay. I think
Well,
you'll
in
find,
regard-
oh, sorry.
Sorry, if I could just finish something, Chairman. And I appreciate where you're coming from, Committee Member Bishop, because the documents provided can be a bit misleading and contradictory, but mostly we're providing them just to give you a bit of a lay of the land. I think it's important for the committee members just to look at the values that are being requested today. And if there's concerns about those values in relation to the lot line, we can always include a condition that those measurements be confirmed by an Ontario land surveyor after the fact. But I think the values are what might be more important to be looking at today.
Do we have further questions?
Just,
Mr. Connolly?
yeah, I think Mr. Bishop, your picture there with the lines on it, the front corner is actually in the trees. The line is going across my neighbor's open yard. Our neighbor has a very open property, and our line is completely treed. So the front stake is under a very large white pine. You wouldn't be able to see it.
I have to ask
So you're
Danielle.
saying that your stake is not there, it's over there?
Yeah,
not
because
there.
that,
It's over there.
right, yeah. Otherwise, it would be halfway through my neighbor's yard.
Okay,
Has there been any correspondence or any questions from any of the neighbors with respect to this application?
No, we have received no comments, either oral or written as of today.
Mr. Walker? You're muted at the moment for some reason.
Button, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
I think my question might be for Mr. Isles, Jeff. Just in regard to the existing driveway going across unopened road allowances, how is that legally done? Is it just done, or is there permission, or how does that lie, please?
Thank you. It's a little bit different because the road allowance to the rear property line is actually a road allowance on a plan of subdivision. So usually those are set aside for the development of roads. The original road allowance that leads to water, usually some sort of permission to use the road allowance for driveway purposes is required through council. Having said that, it appears to be a road named Wellington Drive, and it's really hard to say how long that's been there. And to be honest, I haven't reviewed to see whether they do have those existing permissions. It's something we would have to go back and look at. But again, I go back to how long that's likely been there, and we could go back and look at that plan of subdivision and just to see how those 4 properties were to obtain their access.
Okay, I didn't mean to bring that up as a fly in the ointment. It was just the setback does request, it does involve that road allowance because it is right there. So just to clarify, so we don't get into a bit of a jackpot at a later date.
Mrs. Conley?
So that road allowance that's behind the garage, I think that's what you're talking about, Mr. Walker. And it's supposed to be an extension of Bowen Road, but it never went through, and it would only access us anyhow. If that makes sense. The other thing is, I don't know if this committee is aware that we're in the process of hoping to look at buying both road allowances. We just have not been able to get a letter together and to the committee yet, as Peter's mother just passed away. So we've been kind of overwhelmed with everything going on.
Mr. Walker?
So if that is the case, and I guess I would direct this to Mr. Isles again, if they were to purchase or be successful in purchasing the shore road allowance, would they still require a minor variance?
Thank you. To purchase the original road allowance and maybe the road allowance for road at the back might reduce the requirements with regards to lot coverage and the setbacks. However, I do advise that that process can take 1.5 years to 2 years. So if the Connollys or the applicants wish to build in the near future, that might not be the appropriate route to go.
Mrs.
Okay,
Conley?
thank you.
That's why we were okay with the variances, to apply for the variances so that we could go ahead and build the garage and then still have our application in the letter to the committee on buying the 2. Then the woodshed is right on the lot line, I believe, Pete,
Yep.
to the road allowance.
Okay. Mr. Isles?
It should be noted that the municipal policy or the municipality's official plan discourages the sale of original road allowances leading to water. So obviously it's up to council's sole discretion, but I don't know whether the committee would want to bank on that being sold as part of their decision. It's possible they do choose to sell it. It's possible they don't, but I just wouldn't necessarily count on it for your decision today.
Mr. Smith first and then Mrs. Conley.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I have less concern with the lot clearance requirements in this case because it is an odd situation with the road allowance being next door as opposed to a neighbor. So this location wouldn't be a problem were it not for, at least as I understand, and it would not be a problem, were it not for the fact that they're situated adjacent to a road allowance as opposed to another cottage lot.
Exactly.
I am though concerned about the 17% lot coverage. And note that the garage size of 28 by 48 feet, that's a massive garage. And so I would be, more supportive of this if there was frankly, a more modest sized garage. Doesn't need to be a one-car garage, but 28 by 48, it's 1,344 square feet. And that's what's creating the problem in my mind here with the 17% lot coverage. That's as I said, a concern. And so how would you feel about making the garage a little more a little smaller to be a little more accommodating on that?
Mrs. Conley?
Could we fit all our vehicles and our boat in there, Pete? That's the reason we went with the larger garage. In all fairness, to be able to accommodate everything.
That
Peter,
is
you
pretty
might have
good.
something to say.
I can.
Mr. Conley?
I can say that I come by it honestly from my father. He had 5 cars in the driveway when I turned 16, and my mother didn't have a license. And yeah, we have 6 cars and a motorcycle and a boat. Probably going to get a side-by-side. And to be honest with you, I hate ancillary buildings. I'm not a big fan of multiple little buildings all over the place. I would rather put everything under one roof. The 28 feet is sort of based on the length of our boat trailer, being able to fit it in that way. And we do have it 3 bays wide just because we want to put a car lift in the one end of it. So I can put my antique car, my wife's antique car in the one bay, boat in another bay. It's a bit of a sickness, this whole acquiring too many vehicles, but it's kind of our situation.
Well, as a
Well,
former
if you have all
treasurer,
those
you never
needs,
have
maybe
too
you
many
should have bought a
cars.
bigger property because, the 15% lot coverage is a long-standing rule. And I note it's always discouraging when applicants have ignored the rules to date. With your CCAN, for example, there are lots of self-storage businesses in Halliburton and between here and Barrie. So I'd be more supportive of an application that was, as I said, a more reasonable size garage and only slightly exceeded 15% as opposed to, going from 15 to 17% is a pretty big shift.
Mr. Smith, we'll hear from Danielle because she has some information with respect to if he was to downsize a bit, what the lot coverage would be, et cetera.
Perfect. So if they were to downsize the garage to 1,100 square feet, the lot coverage would be 15.9%. If it was 1,000 square foot garage, it would be 15.5% lot coverage.
Could you live with either one of those, Mr. Conley? Mr. Walker? Sorry, Mr. Walker, we're going to hear from Mr. Conley first, and you follow
Sure.
him, okay?
Yep.
Go ahead, Peter.
I guess I would, sorry, I didn't follow the sizes that you had mentioned, Danielle.
1,000 square feet and 1,100.
Okay, because 4,200. 14.
Mrs. Conley?
What is his square footage now, Peter? And I just wanted to let everyone know that Mr. Bishop has had his hand up for a long time.
Well, I didn't catch him up there in the corner. I'll let him speak after. We will go for Mr. Conley, Mr. Walker, and then Mr. Bishop.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to, I guess, do the math and see what, and see if that still fits for 3 bays wide, I guess, if that was
Okay.
enough room. I pretty much need the length though. The stupid boat trailer is massive, right? So I do need the 26 or 28 feet. But yeah, I'll have to do the math.
Okay. Mr. Walker?
My comment was that there's a shed at the front, 14 by 12. Is that to be removed or is that staying? Or is that an option to remove that?
No, that's staying. That's full of junk too. That was
So
that
is
was
there an
built on
option?
Mr. Bishop and Danielle.
Yes, Mr. Chair, while I appreciate the say collection attitude of Mr. and Mrs. Connolly here, that's not a zoning issue. The zoning issue deals with the piece of property and meeting the setback requirements. Our desires are not what are being covered here. If they went for a smaller garage, there's nothing that I have seen that's been presented that prevents the creation of a garage on this parcel of property that would meet the zoning bylaw requirements. They just have to get smaller and meet the setbacks. The fact that they have these, and I don't mean to be rude with this, I have toys as well. The fact that they have these toys and they want someplace to store them is, again, as Mr. Smith said, buy a larger piece of property. We're not here in the zoning situation to meet the desires of people. We're here to try and accommodate a lot that doesn't physically allow them to create a building that is an allowed use within the zoning. There is no physical impediment to creating a garage from which you can meet the setbacks.
Well, Mrs. Connolly and then Peter Connolly.
We honestly thought that we were drawing the plans for the lake house and the garage by the correct setbacks. When we did the lake house, it was approved and said that everything was correct. So we didn't know that we were doing anything incorrect until it came to Danielle's desk when she saw the garage, and it was a different setback. The other thing is, Jeff Isles had said in this meeting that we probably would not have an issue getting the back road allowance. If that's possible and we got that road allowance, we would meet the 17% easy. Am I correct? Does that make sense?
I don't have that information right here, but I'll talk to Danielle.
So depending on that area, you could, I'm not sure. But just addressing Mr. Connolly's concern. So if you did a garage that was 28 feet by 40 feet, that brings you to 1,120 square feet. Your lot coverage would be 16%.
But I don't think we intend to hold you up with respect to the building that's there. I think there was a little bit of a mix up somewhere along the way. So I think the committee is fully intends to pass that part of your request. I'd say the problem we have is the size of the garage and whether, and I hate to defer, but would we consider deferral and people go and visit this property? Is that a reasonable solution? Mrs. Connolly?
We would really appreciate that. We did bring it to the attention and asked if the committee or Jeff Isles or whoever could come and see the property. However, I understand, Jeff, that you're truly absolutely busy. I can respect that. I can't imagine how busy you are. But if you've seen the property and realized that there's no access by any public to come through, they would have to come through either one of our properties.
Mr. Bishop?
I just want to make it clear, Mr. Chair, that we cannot make a decision here on the basis that these applicants are going to acquire a portion of the 66-foot road allowances, either the open one at the back that's the extension of Bowen Court or the open concession line that runs to the lake. We've got to treat this exactly as the parcel that is in front of us. The future is the future.
I think you're dead on. I think, but I think we all understand that. And where we're going with this, it seems to me, as I said, I hate deferrals, but is that the route we should go with this thing? Let's have some input from the committee members. Mr. Smith?
Well, I'd be willing to go out. I didn't go up personally to look at this property. I did look at the other two today, and but I'd be willing to defer it pending a site visit if others in the committee would consider. My views on the lot coverage remain a concern, and so I would suggest that as part of the deferral, Peter and or Gail may want to look at the size of the garage and see what they can do to bring it down a little bit. Somebody threw out 28 by 38 feet as a more accommodating size. And that would be 16% lot coverage as opposed to the 17.
Danielle?
That would be 28 by 40.
28 by 40, that's even bigger than for Peter. Only cuts out a couple of toys. So if that would help the Conleys, a chance to give them a chance to come back with a more reasonable size garage and and go out and have a look also. Because Mrs. Conley, I do need to point out that the properties around you, although they are unopened road allowances, they are public property. And being owned by the municipality, anybody has a right to sort of wander around there.
Is there a second? Do you prepare to move that motion, Mr. Smith? Is there a seconder? Is there a seconder to defer? Mr. Walker? All in favor of that? Mr. Bishop?
Sure.
Okay. So, Peter, go ahead.
So when are you coming out to visit us?
10 minutes.
Don't wait too long, the snow will be.
Are you up there all the time now? Or are you a weekender? Sorry. Go
I'm
ahead.
up here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, most times, just not on Fridays because I watch my grandchild in the city.
Okay, well, if we know that, we'll coordinate. Mr. Isles will set a meeting up and then we'll coordinate that with you. So, Danielle?
Is there a better date for you guys next week? And then I can work with the committee members on scheduling it.
I'll be up here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week.
Okay.
Yeah, I can be there whichever day.
Are you there every day, Peter?
Not every day, but I can be flexible.
I'm sure your wife can guide us around there. That's all right.
Okay.
Mr. Smith?
Monday's not good for me, but I certainly, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll set that up after the meeting here. And what that means is that the decision is just going to be deferred to pending a site visit. Okay, so you don't have to start over again with anything else. And then, so it means it will come up at the next meeting, which is in
November 10th.
November 10th? November 10th. So that gives us enough time to get something put together. And Peter, I have the deepest regret of you losing your mother. She was a lovely person, and your dad was also a very good friend of mine.
Thank you.
That can't really reflect on the decisions we make here, but anyway, if you're happy with that, then Danielle or Jeff will communicate with you and let you know when we're coming. Okay?
Dave
So-
has a question. Dave has a question.
Go ahead, Dave. Bishop?
Mr. Chair, thank you very much for your comment with respect of Mr. and Mrs. Connolly. Peter and Gail, I was neighbors to your father when we lived over on Harmony Road. And he and I had some great discussions from time to time. And I appreciated his dry wit, shall we say, okay? Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So we need a mover and a seconder for that, eh? That we defer.
You
We did.
did.
Just a minute here, I get going. So we already got that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yes.
voted on it.
We
Yep.
already voted on it. So we're sailing,
Yep.
okay? Where do we have to go from here?
We have the Shoneyville and Lewis file.
Windy Ridge.
Yes.
Where is Mr. Windy, Mr. Ridge?
I'm just bringing them in.
Yeah, one thing about, there's not gonna be any deferral here.
Wayne, are you able to hear us?
Windy Ridge, are you there?
They're on screen, but I'm not sure if they can speak.
What's the person's name?
Wayne. is his
Wayne?
name? Yeah.
Well, let's deal with it as a committee. If he doesn't show up, then he basically has reconsidered, done the things we've asked him to do. So are we happy with that? Really, what he needs is a front yard setback. He's adhering to the water setbacks for both sides of the creek and everything else. And he's asking for, I think it's 12 feet, isn't it? Danielle?
Yep.
And the roads department are in concurrent with that, and I don't think we've had any complaints of it. No.
No, so the Public Works Department note that they don't have any issues with the variance to the front
Right.
lot line.
Mr. Smith?
Just for clarification, that's what I thought was happening, but the package here, dated October the 13th still has the three in there in terms of the water setback of 92 feet, the
Yeah.
side lot of
The
4
re-
feet.
the reason- Sorry, the reason for that is that we deferred each one of those.
Okay,
So now what I'm suggesting is we turn down 1 and 2 and give 3.
okay, so we're going to reject A and B and accept C.
Yeah,
All right, I'm good with that.
everybody, if someone makes a motion to that effect, we'll carry that out. That we reject A and
So
B,
move.
take C. Seconded by Mr. Bishop. Moved by
Our
Mr.
discussion,
Yeah,
Jeff seemed to have a comment here. I'd like to hear what Jeff says.
Thank you. I was just going to clarify for Councillor Smith. It's similar to road closing applications because they requested 3 variances and we provided notice as through the Planning Act for 3 variances. They still have to come to the committee today for a decision. So they're no longer required, but the committee is still required to make a decision on all 3. So the 2 that aren't required can be denied.
Okay, so we're going to deny A and B and accept C.
correct.
Great,
Well,
perfect.
well, just so we're all on the same wavelength, we'll read them out. A decreased provision of section 5.2 to permit a dwelling to have a north minimum water setback of 28.1 meters or 92 feet as opposed to required 30 meters of 98 feet is denied. Indicate by your hands. Decreased provision of 5.2 to permit a dwelling to have a north interior sideline setback of 1.3 meters as opposed to the required 1.5 meters is denied. Decreased provision of section 5.2 to permit a dwelling to have a front yard setback of 3.7 meters is or 12 feet as opposed to 7.5 or 24.6 is granted. Carried. That being the conclusion of the meeting, I need a seconder to move on, or a mover and a seconder.
Just
David
a
Bishop.
mover is all we need to adjourn.
Seconder? John Smith. We want to make sure your wife knows you're at the meeting, Mr. Smith. See, so have your name down there. You're all set.
I get enough trouble that she doesn't need to know I'm at a meeting.
Be it resolved, the meeting now be adjourned at 12:15 PM. Thank you very much for your attendance and your contributions. PM. So we'll get Danielle to set something up with respect to the site visit, and you can just communicate with us,
Yeah, well,
okay? So, and I'm sure we can all handle that, like probably next week, some fine.
perfect. Awesome. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Have a great day. You're all muted.